All right, looks like I did something correct to my memory. All right, I want to thank a bunch of you for keeping up the pressure on me to do something about making my channel more lucrative for myself. Because last night I was in the chat of another person's channel, and when people saw me in the chat, the streamers actually then all praised me for being one of the smartest people on YouTube. And it was that was pretty cool. And so I want to thank without the audience there is no show. And that really has made me think okay, that's what you needed. I needed that. I needed to know that, it was not so much all for nothing, that no, you're doing this for some reason, but that I'm not bad at it. That was, I think, a part of it was, that I'm not bad at this. And that, that was a big part of it. So, one of the things I was thinking about is showing you guys what I actually do on my walks. Like, what are the exercises I do and stuff like that. So a part of this is going to be cut off, and then hopefully I'll be able to properly set this thing up so that you could actually see what I some of my little things. It's not a lot. It's just that I've been doing these kinds of exercises consistently. Of course, I'm looking at the blackberries. Yes. No, not this morning. Not this morning. And one of the things also I wanted to bring up was something that I had run into. It is a very smart channel. Don't want to bring negative attention to his channel, because it was kind of interesting, because he apparently was somebody who at some point got attracted to a lot of the libertarian stuff and a lot of that scene of anarcho-capitalist on YouTube. I think he's from Prague or something like that. And he also has a video about how he left the alt-right. And I have found a lot of people, when they want to try to make I was, the alt-right, and I left the alt-right, and then they start advocating for things that are just flat out leftist. And so one of the things that he brought up is that he brought up something about the import of unions, that he felt that America didn't understand how important unions were, or something like that, because people widely rejected them across many fields when they got the opportunity. And so I wanted to point out one of the most glaring examples of why Americans reject unions is the state of Oregon. Right now, there is a Hispanic woman running for Congress, or governor. She's running for governor based on education reform. Within my own lifetime, I think Oregon is either the whitest state in the 48 contiguous states, or is close to it. I mean, it has an exceedingly low number of ethnic minorities living here. And most of them are Hispanic. And those people, when you encounter a lot of them, they don't have accents. Their second generation do not speak with stereotypical West Coast Chicana, black Chicana mishmash, a kind of kind of accents, trying to look cool and trying to look vata and stuff like that. That scarcely exists here. Most of these are second generation, third generation Hispanic women that if you didn't know better, you would just you would know she's Hispanic, but she's fundamentally a brunette. And when you talk to them, if you talk to them on the phone, They would sound like anybody. They would sound like any white person. They don't affect any form of strange, like, kind of fashion accent of any sort. Not like in California, which even during my youth, some, like, a Hispanic girl of 3-4 generations deep, sometimes mixed with a number of different Hispanic origins, would still affect a bizarre accent. And this is 4 generations deep. And it was because that was the fashion of California. That's not the same thing here in Oregon. So within my own lifetime, I remember Oregon having way better education scores. I remember in California, this was something that I remember specifically about Oregon. It is now 37th. It only has a little more than 10 states to drop before it is in the bottom percentile. And so if there's anything that shows the utter failure of a union, it is the teachers union. The utter and complete fucking failure. And this is like, it's dropped a number of places within a very short time. This is not something like, oh, they were in 30th and then went down 7 places. No, there's more wealth here than there's been in generations. I mean, and the schools, like the large schools, and even, like, I'm looking at a building that's an extension of one of the schools right now. It's like this huge extension of one of the local public schools. And yet, they're at 37th. And Governor Kate Brown recently signed this bill that they're going to allow you to graduate without being able to necessarily pass the fundamental reading and mathematical standards. And what did she say she was doing this for? To help all the ethnic minorities. Look up the numbers on this. Oregon has like some of the lowest numbers of Black Americans in the entire union. Now, this is to the constant lament, and really, that's one of also the funny ironies, is that when you're in personal conversations with liberals, that when they see that you're brown, they go, oh, if we only had more diversity. And I'm like, why? Like, what is that supposed to get you? And so it's supposed to be that now there's not going to be standards for graduating based on mathematics and based on reading, because it's supposed to help ethnic minorities, even though Hispanics in the state are doing fine in the school system. And there's almost no Black people here. Who is Kate Brown supposed to be helping with this law? And I really had to then sit back and be like, she's helping the teachers union. If the teachers union doesn't have to teach anybody how to read and how to do math, then it's real great that you don't have to prove how poorly they do their job. And so this is one of the reasons why so many people vote against unionization. Here we go. Number 1. Now, first I have to do this little thing. Unionizing and unionization. And that there's actually, even in Oregon specifically, whole businesses that are based around cooperatives. So it's not really a union, so that you're not paying into a national union infrastructure where you get nothing out of it. And also, this is the other thing, is I have definitely encountered that that people who are in the teachers union know how utterly incompetent and how much bullshit the teachers union is. They know. Okay, so that's one of the first things. And so, boom. So yeah, the teachers union can't educate white children. In a white state, the teachers union cannot educate white people. When you encounter people who are from like the rural end of Oregon, like rural white people, the idea obviously is that these are like kind of like the hicks from the sticks. When you encounter them, no, they're well spoken, they're polite, they usually have real stable families. They're just very normal white people. Now, the urban areas, the more urbanized areas, the blue enclaves, they're the ones with the multi-generations of privileged drug addiction. The college towns that are famously these places that are really kind of party towns. And then these idiots who want to mask up outside.
It's just, you want more and gosh? No. You should.
There's one there, and then if you want to do that high,
So that's one that I actually got entirely from a book, Convict Conditioning, and I was surprised at how difficult that one was. But so yeah, so I've been sort of amazed that this law to cancel out the ability to graduate high school on merit. It's really what, and then for everybody, for the legislature to claim that this is meant to help ethnic minorities. That the ethnic minorities it's racist fundamentally to be able to read, and it's racist to be able to do math. Again, Eugene, Oregon, one of the second or third largest population center. There's no barrio here. Like there's no like neighborhood that is the sort of historically Hispanic neighborhood where they're trapped or something like that, like on the east side or something. That doesn't exist here. Nothing like that exists in, I think, even Portland. There's no barrio. There is the historical black neighborhood of Portland, North Portland, which has been dangerous for decades because of the Bloods and the Crips. But there's no like ghetto that the black people in Oregon are stuck in, that they can't get out of, the schools that can't teach them. This isn't Hunter's Point. This isn't Bayview. This isn't Sunnydale Projects in San Francisco. And so the fact they're doing this with the schools, this is one of the greatest arguments for why you shouldn't trust syndicates. You know, that because that's what in the Italian version, the European version, it was the syndicates and syndicalization. And so you get these things that and so I had this one music teacher that I knew personally, and he would shit on the local the teachers union like I couldn't believe. And he was like a real pro. Like, he performed quite regularly at one of the local places here. That's a local jazz place. And he was like, I cannot believe what these people keep saying and suggesting we do, supposedly to help these students. And this is the kind of place you have a sign that says cannoli. Generations of people say cannellini. They're guessing. They're doing that thing where you don't actually know how to put words together according to phonics. So they're guessing. They're guessing what the word says. And it's so this entire idea that there's something super amazing about the unions and that it could be shown out, especially in Oregon through the teachers union, is just bunko. And so that's why I just had to drop that, because it's unreal that by the end of it, it's not that these people don't want to just do hard work. No, they're protecting the ethnic minorities from qualifying for fucking college. I mean, it's just bunko. And then it explains why these people have masks on outdoors so often, and why you have these people kind of hysterical as fuck over trying to protect themselves from a virus by not understanding fundamental biology. And people here worship teachers. They fucking worship the ground they walk on, because they're mostly women. And that it's really an issue of a lot of thirsty men that go along to get along with the women. A culture of fucking thirst. And so then and this was something I started to pick up on once I started to have like enough conversations with people who had supposedly gone to this unbelievably incredible institution, the University of Oregon. And I kept having all these just little things that would come up when that I started to realize it seems like the school specializes in making sure people have degrees in, at best, soft sciences. But then beyond that, I started to run into people that they just had like strange gaps in knowledge that they should have had if they had a degree in that field. And it was just stuff that I thought, maybe you're inordinately well read. You know, maybe it's just experience and stuff like that. And then I started to realize, like, no. Because there's actually a guy on Twitter that he's one of these people who's really into the human genomics kind of stuff. And he even had come here and finished his graduate work elsewhere. But what it was that it was sort of like this understood joke of, oh, Oregon, oh, you're in Eugene, haha, how's that going?
But I think they watch on computer. I think it was what?
And so I started thinking, especially a lot of people I've encountered, they would have fundamentally this really just completely irrational way of evaluating history. This is one of these places that you find everything woke. And so because the wokeness stuff is something that's coming straight out of high school, that they obviously are just not being taught really a way of seeing the world that requires analyzing it at a second and third level. And you know, men cause war. Well, women make the spears and women get the spoils. So obviously it benefits women too. That's sexist. So that you end up finding sort of this, a lot of these people you'll run into who they're kind of on top of shit. This is like a dude who you are really impressed with his knowledge. Did he go to the mighty castle of a high school? Do you see it? No, he went to the one that was considered the more podunk one, and then went into the Marines. And when in the Marines, he ended up learning how to do all kinds of stuff and learned how to speak Arabic. And that eventually, being that this dude who I was talking about, the captain of the kitchen, he taught about Islam in the school here. He eventually was overtly furious at the wokeness of people around him, that he could barely keep it in check. A guy I know who worked with him was like, yeah, dude, he's done with all this hippie shit. And that's what really comes down to, is a lot of the teachers are just fucking hippies. They're just these 60s retreads, these hippies that really they're riding the pension train. They're riding the gravy train. And that there's this sensitivity about it because there's all these dudes who fundamentally have to humor these women because they have to make these women feel good. People buy all kinds of gifts for their teachers. They worship teachers here. They worship them, even though they're getting outcomes that are putting them down there with states that they would easily. These are the kind of white people who love talking about the rednecks this, the rednecks that. Love it. That was another thing that like I picked up on real fast, that in very personal conversations, people would say that thinking like I would be cool with that kind of talk. Like that I would just be like, oh yeah, I know what you mean, the rednecks, right? And Well, I keep wondering. There's this area that for a while kind of paved over, and oh, looks like they rebuilt it. So I wanted to jump rope. Looks like they took a lot of the paving out and redid the area. Okay, so that's good to know. All right. Skipping a rope, it's best to have a certain kind of surface if you're going to skip rope. But drug addiction, like this is an area that one place that I could always pick out was a growth industry or recovery programs. So this is an area one that I think has a statue to Ken Kesey. So this guy would drop acid and hang out and read to children in the park or something like that. That supposedly made this guy like some kind of hero or some kind of, I don't know, like some kind of amazing image of literati. Oh my God, there's children with fucking masks on. and then there's that these people are fighting over mask mandates, yet how could they be well educated in science if they're 37th in the fucking in public education in the union, and there's almost no laboratories to speak of, there's almost no engineering industry to speak of. There's plenty of people who work with steel. There's no way of fronting on that. Because of the agricultural industry here, people know how to work with steel, but you don't see the space program here. You don't see the aeronautics industry here, even though they expanded on the international airport. You don't see Tesla having to put a section of research out here because of the amazingness of the schools and all of the brains that they're churning out. So this is it. When people want to say all America needs is to embrace what Europe has by central planning and having more unions, they really don't understand the United States of America. And they really don't understand that in America, very likely as in Europe, that unions don't necessarily guarantee that industry is going to produce whatsoever. It doesn't mean that it's going to end up with multi-generational better outcomes. It's just a way for mostly the baby boomers and now Gen Xers to ride the gravy train to their pensions. And that really, when you look at what really has come of, like, say, the greatness of the public sector has crushed the one thing that Oregon really had going for it, and that was lots and lots of small businesses, lots of small restaurants, lots of small cafes, that they went out of their way to crush these, so that the ones with lots of equity that had been around a while, they could survive the lockdowns, but that nobody else had that kind of equity. And trying to make sure then people have to build all sorts of outdoor seating in a state that it rains 3/4 of the year, and it's intemperate in that way and pretty miserable. So I just wanted to put that out there. It's time for me to hit the bars, and so I'll see y'all later, and see you tonight for the reading. All right, later.